Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Coach Andres with coachingwithundress.com, and thank you for tuning in. Today, we're going to talk about a very common situation in majority of my coaching situations. Majority of my clients are women, and majority of my clients are single moms and divorced. I admire their courage. I admire their strength. I mean, to be a single mom or divorced and still have hope, faith, and belief in love is very interesting. It's very inspiring as a man. It's very inspiring as a coach. But one thing I've noticed is, we're going to talk about this. This is called 3 tips to date after a divorce. 3 tips to date. 3 dating tips and dating after a divorce. I've seen a common trend of these women after a divorce, probably not aware of these tips. Maybe they are, maybe they're not, but that's where I come in. And they kind of get a little too caught up quickly. Not about the time frame of the divorce, but necessarily the first opportunity through a connection, through a date, through a match, through someone with potential. The first one, I think we've all been there and we're all guilty of it, but eventually you have to grow up to realize it's not everything. Know that chemistry doesn't always equal long-term relationship. Chemistry is fun. Chemistry is sexy. Chemistry is exciting. The spark, the match on dating apps and websites. You know, that synergy, that attraction, that flirtation, great chemistry. It's almost like, the best version of yourself in the very beginning, like an interview with someone else, and we're just clicking. That's very exciting. That's the first C of a healthy relationship. There's chemistry, connection, compatibility. We'll talk about that video another time. But the number one with chemistry, don't confuse chemistry with long-term success, with long-term relationships, especially after a divorce. Again, it doesn't matter about the specific time frame, but after a divorce to a new relationship, because the chemistry could be there. It could be real. It could be genuine, but it's overblown, overprojected because it's such a shiny new little toy compared to whatever caused the divorce, the bad marriage, the bad breakup, to a point of disrupting maybe even the family, to all this excitement with someone with great chemistry. And you get caught up in it. You lose yourself. You assume there's connection and compatibility because the chemistry is so strong. The sex is amazing. The sense of humor is through the roof. The wittiness, the charm, the compliments, the gifts, the roses, the flowers, the dinners. Wow, I haven't been paid attention to. My ex-husband never did that to me. My ex-husband was always, cheating on me, and this guy gives me, all the attention. I understand and respect all those situations on that change from divorce to single dating, as a single woman, single mom. But don't confuse chemistry as a long-term answer for a successful relationship. Chemistry is a great stepping stone to see if there's something more. You want chemistry and you need chemistry. The study shows that actually women could develop chemistry through time more than guys. So women who take the time to say, you know what, I want to see if there's more than just chemistry. Because the relationship that ended, and that's even including if the divorce was ugly, if it was heavy, kids involved. And usually in that situation, I see a lot of my clients who take the time, do their thing, or some clients who don't take their time, going right into a relationship, and they just value just the chemistry. Unfortunately, majority of the time, that never really works out because they haven't taken the time to get to know the person for who they are compared to how they make them feel. And as long as that person is completely different from the ex, that's fine. Even if the person has their own red flags and issues going on, it's not as bad as my ex, I'll cope with it. One client of mine, she kind of just compromised to a point where she's like, my ex was horrible. I'm okay with decent or bad, as long as it's not horrible. So it's like, your options are horrible or bad. That's where you want to go. But the chemistry's there. And she was like, you're right. Why am I limiting myself to those 2 choices? Why am I living 1 inch above water emotionally? Because you've gotten used to an unhealthy relationship in the marriage. You got used to a very heavy dramatic or traumatic divorce. So any level of excitement, fun, chemistry could be not only great for you, which is awesome, but it can't be everything for you. And that's where you want to take your time. Got chemistry? Great. Let's take our time before being more intimate, before being exclusive, before introducing each other to each other's worlds, before introducing to each other's kids, for my goodness sake. Don't do that. And take your time. Here's a quote I want to read to you. Lust is nature's way of tricking us into attachment. So be very judicious about who you keep in your dating pool and who you throw back to the pond. Chemistry is written all over that. Lust is nature's way of tricking us into attachment. We don't want to go into the whole anxious avoidant attachment styles because we all got something, but that's when we don't pay attention or not patient enough to establish more than just chemistry. I'm happy you found chemistry after a divorce, but let's take our time. Let's enjoy it for a little longer, which leads to number two. Number two, and this one is probably the hardest one, but it's necessary. Number two is make sure you're actually over your ex. And I know where you're thinking with this. It goes both ways, ladies. Make sure you're over your ex to a point where you still are in love with him, which is totally understandable. Maybe he's the father of your kids. I've heard a lot of stories. He's a great father, coach, just a horrible husband. Okay, so there's a lot of respect and admiration for that. Maybe there's still some hope. Maybe this divorce was a card playing on the table to see if he's going to react to something. Maybe he cheated on you and you always felt like you still wanted him back. Maybe you cheated on him. I've heard it all. But make sure you're over that relationship before you get into something else after a divorce. You have to make sure, the obvious one is make sure you're over him as in, I'm not in love with him anymore, coach. We've been emotionally detached for years. This divorce was in the making 10 years ago. I've heard this story. I stayed until kids went to college. Living situation was just convenient to a point where I found my financial independence. We made a great agreement to separate at the right time, even a mutual divorce, which is great in the sense that they had that self-respect and respect for each other. So that's obvious when you still are in love with your ex. But the second one is the most obvious thing to me that I've seen hearing their stories. That you hate him. You resent him. You despise him. And maybe he deserves all that. Maybe he has done all those wrong things. But when you bring that anger, when you bring that darkness, which I'm sure he deserves, screw him for doing what he did. But when you bring that aura, that energy, that feeling which you have every respect to have into a date, into some new guy, you're going to misrepresent yourself. And frankly, that guy doesn't want to hear it. He doesn't want to hear it. Oh, great. So you hate your ex-husband, your kids don't get along, and you want to go on a second date? Sure. Do you see to a point where it might be truthful and it might be not fair to a point, but you have to be honest with yourself. Maybe I'm not ready to date yet. Maybe I need time to heal that. Just because you're divorced legally and on the paper with the ink doesn't mean you're divorced emotionally, spiritually, or mentally. Take your time. The last thing you want to do is go into another unhealthy relationship after leaving an unhealthy marriage. Take your time, date yourself, be with your friends and your families. Go explore things you haven't been able to do because you were the wife, the provider, the domestic wife, the mother, the partner for so long, and now you have all this extra time on your hands. Go explore that. Because if you're still in love with him or you hate his guts, which I'm sure he deserves, that neither one of them is attractive for a first date. Neither one of them is attractive for the next guy. Obviously, I'm talking about a high-quality guy, not just some schmuck. But that, to me, is where I've seen a lot of times where my clients, majority of them, are not in love with their ex. They admire his father skills for the kids, but not in love in any way, regardless why they got divorced. But there's been more times where they just hate the ex, can't stand, can't co-parent, even through, going through court, papers, trials, freaking money, contracts, lawyer. Oh, take your time to close that door. Take your time before you open something new. All right? Number three will be a point where you've established number 1 and 2. You're looking for more than just chemistry or just a good time. Number 2, you've taken the time to heal from the situation where you're not mad and hate your ex. There's just more of a, agree to disagree situation. Number 3 is take your time on the first date. Don't hook up too quickly. Take your time. You've done all the right work with 1 and 2. Give yourself the respect that you've done. You're approaching it the right way. Don't rush into it. To a point where I always hear the stories about my clients about when do you go on a first date? When you see and feel the effort of the guy actually trying to get to know you without texting. However you guys met, he actually wants to call you when you're free, call you when you're available, hear your voice, video call you, connect and chat, engage. Now you can tell the difference, which is sad to admit, but the big difference of someone trying to call you compared to text you. If they've taken that effort to really make it not just consistent, not constant, consistent, because you don't want to talk all day, every day. Get a life. Consistent towards, a realistic time frame. Schedule the first date and go on the first date and enjoy the company, enjoy the chemistry, but take your time on the first date. You don't have to rush through anything. Just because you like the person, just because you see something there, take it slow. I always say to my clients in the situation, regardless if they're divorced or not, or even just single, when they get on a first date and it's going great, the next day they hit me up for a coaching session and I start panicking, anxious thoughts, doubts here and there. And I'm like, what are you doing? You've been talking about for months how you were looking for a good guy, and now you finally got one at some point for what it is, the one date, and you want to rush it. You want more. You want to spoil it. You want to just sabotage and suffocate it to say, what are we? What's going on? What does he want? I really like him. I want to, oh Lord, I've heard it all. It's hilarious. And I'm like, you just got into a great dance with a great song with a great dance partner, and you want to rush the DJ. You want to rush the song. Dance, man. Dance and enjoy this first date. Enjoy this momentum. Enjoy this connection, this chemistry, to let it naturally build to something compatible, to an actual relationship. Take your time, ladies. If you've gone through an unhealthy relationship, unhealthy divorce, you owe yourself to be selective with quality relationships, quality dates. And there's going to be men lined up the day you divorce to the day you move out, waiting to take you out. There's going to be a line of men, and you're not going to really know their intentions. So take the time to establish your own intentions with yourself. All right? My name is Coach Andres with coachingwithandres.com. Send a message if you have any questions about this topic, or if you're interested in a coaching session. I'm always here to help. Take care. Ooh, how long was that one?
The same, about 15 minutes.
Probably cut a few minutes, like 12 minutes. Okay.